Good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George Moss again here at allpointstv.com and want to thank you 2 days before the holiday, before the great Christmas holiday comes up, and everybody is saying Merry Christmas. And we have our Christmas festivities here at the studio. And people are now saying, John, have you noticed everybody's saying Merry Christmas now, and they're so gleeful about it?
Yeah, the thing is, though, it just shows how timid, in my opinion, people are.
Yeah.
Once they get one person get all belligerent about it, they back down. It's like, well, look, maybe you're taking offense by it. I didn't mean it offensively. Move on with your life. But now, because we got a handful of a minority out there, I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't care. I don't celebrate Hanukkah, but I don't fall apart when somebody says Happy Hanukkah. I don't
celebrate all the holidays. I mean, I can't believe people are saying that celebrating Christmas, saying Merry Christmas, is a conservative talking point. Have you heard that one?
Yeah, I've heard that. Well,
conservative talking point.
Well, I see Happy Holiday. I don't see it. We just discussed it before we got on the air, but I don't have a problem with holidays because originally it meant holy days, and it's a holiday. Christmas was supposed to be a holy day, but they get bent out of shape out of now. The OK symbol is considered racist, and that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Okay, what else should I say? Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Let's see, what are the others?
The Ramadan, but let's face it, Ramadan's actually more exacting and actually takes a toll on the people.
Ramadan, Ramadan doesn't always come around the same time because they go by the lunar calendar, but if this is the time for Ramadan, okay, Happy Ramadan.
I don't know what the Buddhists celebrate. I'm sure that there's different sects of Buddhism, so they have different celebrations, I'm certain.
Whatever your religion is, I want you to be welcome today. And we're just trying to be, we're not politically correct. We said Merry Christmas when it was not popular to say so, and we are very glad other persons have now come back to this, and I've been saying Merry Christmas all my life, and I'm one of those persons that really believe that Santa Claus is coming down the chimney. I couldn't figure out how I could do it in my house though, because we had our chimney was not that large, and I couldn't understand how I could bring those toys down, so I just assumed he came through the front door. I do know that piece of cake was missing every time. That one song, remember that one song when they said, I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus? And so as a child, I'm thinking, was Santa Claus was he running around? But they were saying that, Santa Claus was the dad. And that's who I was at. I didn't know at the time that was who Santa Claus was. And if I had known that, I would have been blaming my dad for not bringing me those skates I had asked for. But my dad wasn't there when I sat on Santa's lap and asked for it. And when I didn't get the skates, I blamed Santa for about 5 years. Because everybody had skates and I didn't have the skates.
I never believed in Santa. Even as a kid, I didn't.
You didn't believe it?
No, because I went downstairs and our chimney ended where the furnace started. And we had this octopus furnace. And it was winter, so I figured.
A chimney at your house.
I said, well, I figured he's going to get his butt burnt pretty bad. So I don't think he's going to come down the chimney in this house. So I never bought into that.
I can't, John, I can't say that. Everybody in my neighborhood believed in it. And I went to bed early that night. And I was so excited. I would wake up and every 2 hours I asked my mom, has Santa come? Has Santa Claus come yet? No, he hasn't come yet. And so I sleep another hour or so, and I never did sleep through the whole night.
No, I was going to say that'd been really bad if you're still in college calling your mom and saying that would have been an eyebrow raiser there.
Yeah, I would not have done that, but I started waiting for those skates a long time, and I still have not completely forgiven Santa Claus.
Roller skates or ice skates?
Not bring me those skates.
what, ice skates or roller skates?
No, these are those the iron type. Not the kind out there in the street.
Okay, because you're talking about because you lived in the South. You didn't have much ice like we had
You didn't have an ice, and it was a big thing on Christmas for all the people to go up on this hill because the street was kind of hilly, and they would come down and they'd be doing the cross leg. I never could do that. I was a straight skater, but there were some people who could do the cross leg and go from one side of the street to the other, and they just cross them up. I always admired that. But I wanted to be out there with them, though, and I was very disappointed because, as I know now, my mom could not afford skates for everybody. There were four boys in the family, and my mother was doing the best thing she could do to just put a meal on the table. But that that was a very big disappointment. I thought I was going to get some skates.
You ever hear that joke? You ever hear that joke this comedian used to say, "We're so poor." My dad used to go out to one time he went up to the front porch, shot off the shotgun, and came back, said Santa committed suicide. He won't be here this year. So I just never could believe in it. Even my parents didn't encourage that belief in Santa Claus.
Is that right?
Right.
No, my mom wanted us to have the I guess, yeah, in a way you want the children to have a certain amount of innocence about things, and I don't know if that's because you use Santa as a way of making everybody, those who are naughty, by having a belief in Santa Claus. Santa's coming to town, so you better be nice. And some of the teachers would use that. They would say, when we act up in the classroom, they would say, Santa is not going to bring you any toys. Well, the whole class would get quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Those were the days in which the guys in the back of the room were learning something. And that was very, very unusual. But I want you to have a nice Christmas, and I'm glad you are with us today, and that you probably are going to be meeting with your family later on this week, and want you to have a nice observance. And again, Merry Christmas, everybody, and whatever other holiday you are celebrating on the 25th or therein, then Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all the other holidays to you as well. And Kwanzaa starts on the 26th, and it's a 7-day observance starting on December the 26th and going through January 1. And that's something that it's not quite as big now as it once was back in, I think probably when it accelerated in the 80s, and it's kind of died down a little bit now. But those of you celebrating the Kwanzaa celebration, and you have the Kanara, and you start lighting the candles as of the 26th, and you light a candle each day for 7 days. I commend you for that holiday as well, and Happy Hanukkah for those who have that anniversary and holiday, and you will be celebrating that. I want to acknowledge all the people, whatever your belief is and whatever your celebration is, you have a right to it. This is America, and we have got to restore some of the traditions of the country, and that's one of them, where everybody can, in fact, embrace their own beliefs without the confusion and without being attacked by those who believe otherwise.
But you know that
that's the way it should be.
There were Christian denominations, though, that did not celebrate and actually discouraged the celebration of Christmas because, for example, a lot of people of the Calvinist or Reform, theological based, denominations, they actually opposed the celebration of Christmas like we know it now, and it's gone back into because it was considered a Papist or a Roman Catholic celebration. Mm-hmm. And so, like the Presbyterians years ago, not saying the current ones, but they didn't celebrate it. They discouraged it. They looked down on it. They actively are preached against it. So yeah,
some churches look at it as a pagan, and I guess in a way it does have some roots that. I mean, Jesus was not celebrating Christmas, and a lot of these things that we now have in celebration of that moment were not celebrated at the moment in which those things were occurring. These are things that would have occurred in the aftermath, and so we have to keep that in mind as well. I remember in one of the Sunday school classes, they asked us why do we give gifts during Christmas, and I answered that because we don't have any toys, but that wasn't the answer. Then you know what the answer was, John? The answer was because God had given the gift of His Son. I wasn't thinking along that line. I was thinking about the fact I didn't have those skates, but I'm over it now. I'm over. You learn the lesson, the pain.
That's forgivable because you're a child. I mean, and the scripture says that. When I was a child, I thought as a child.
Yeah.
I spake as a child. But I mean, you realize the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Kids are very egotistical, though. They're looking, very self-centered. It's about them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I know. That was the world I was in, but I'm very glad to have that. And everybody, I think about it, have some fantasies, and then as you get older, you learn that. The world is not quite as innocent a place as you thought it was as a child. But what's wrong for a child having some innocent notions about how the world operates? They'll find out in due time how stressful this experiment is, And those that can get through the journey without jumping off a mountain somewhere or deliberately running your car into a wall, you are the, let's see, what's that song that Prince put out? You are the beautiful ones. So enjoy the holiday and celebrate with your family, and just be glad that you have the liberty to do that. And the greatest country on the earth, and there are some other countries that are also very great. I've been in some of them, and I hope they're having a nice celebration wherever they are. I do have some friends over in Gambia, which is a Muslim country. 92% of the people in Gambia are Muslim. And a lot of my friends are there. And they have it's interesting over in Gambia and Senegal. Gambia is surrounded by Senegal, and it only has one outlet surrounded by Senegal on three sides, so the only outlet it has is to the Atlantic Ocean. And you can go into Gambia, and then you can walk, you can take the ferry for a short time across, and you're in Senegal, and you can go in Senegal, and they'll have the Muslims and the Christians celebrating the holiday together. Now the Muslims won't go into the Christian churches, and the Christians won't go to the Muslim mosque, but they will on Christmas come together, and they will celebrate the holiday together. And the Christians go to the Ramadan. When they have the Ramadan, the breaking the fast of Ramadan, the Christians go there, and they have a lot of communal interaction between the two religions. There's no stress between the two, and I think that's a model that those that are in the Middle East can learn from, because the communitarian relationships in Gambia I think has about 3 million people, so it's small enough, and a lot of these persons are family connected anyway, and they don't have. I think it's a model for the rest of the Muslim world.
Well, I used to talk to this girl from Indonesia, and she was a Muslim, and she went to mosque, almost like daily. She did, she was very observant, and she observed all the fast and feast days and all that. But her grandmother on one side of her family had been a Christian, and when she passed away, she went to the church services and stuff. I think it's further away from you get from the epicenter of the political sphere.
That's a very good point.
I think that's easier for them to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And then when you're there, you hear the call to prayer early in the morning. You're up there trying to get some. You're there on vacation trying to get some sleep, and then 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning before dawn, you hear the call to prayer, and you just try to get some sleep. I used to get mad when there was a church down the street from our house, Metropolitan Baptist Church, and they would have their service, the loudspeakers outside the church, so you could hear the service from outside. I always thought that was a little bit of that was evasive, and invasive. And I always thought that was kind of like, if I want to go to Metropolitan Baptist Church, I'll go inside the building. I never said that, though, because my mom would have smacked me. But I just think that we have to get past these sectarian, narrow ways of looking at things, and just open our hearts up and our minds up, that not everybody feels the same way that we might feel, and understand that we are a world of difference, and that makes the world a better place. Because how would you like it if everybody was in fact the same, and everything you ran into was the same conversation, same ideals, and nobody variated from it, and you ran into the same thing on a constant basis? I mean, how dull would that be? Well, I wouldn't be too happy with myself.
My mom had a friend. She was friends with a Jewish family here in Flint, and one of their sons who went to college, he's the one who went around knocking on the dorm room doors. He got everybody together to do a Christmas carol sing, and he was Jewish. He loved hearing Christmas carols.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy loved it because he always thought he was fascinated. And he was kind of, I don't think he ever left the faith or whatever if his family were really observant, but he thut it was a great thing to hear all these voices you probably never hear again. And
I saw that too, John.
Yeah.
These 5 or 6 people will come to your door, or they come right inside the yard, and all of a sudden you hear the singing outside, and they out there singing, "We wish you a Merry Christmas." Sing a little bit better than I do. but they would come out there to just share some of the celebratory cheer, and it was just wonderful. The community would do that before they would go back to start beating each other up. But at least on that one day, and everybody's in a very good mood. I used to love Thanksgiving and Easter and Christmas and other holidays, because it seemed like the world had become a much more livable place, and people were so much more respectful. You can do it now. You can see it now. You go to the store, people are saying, Merry Christmas, Thanksgiving, have a nice Thanksgiving. I love that, because I like to see the world as a more peaceful place and a more respectful place, where we are not acting like we are in each other's space inappropriately. You know, all of us have something to offer somebody else, and there are great opportunities to, in fact, do that if people are open to it. And I find myself a lot of times, and my mom taught me this, so I'm kind of on the part of representing her. She's not here anymore, but I'm representing Elaine Foster Moss, and my whole energy is around that. I'm not going to let anybody out nice me because their mom didn't teach them anything my mom didn't teach me. So when, like, I go to the store and they say thank you, I have to say I appreciate you, and if they keep talking, I got to keep talking. I got to shut you up. Because your mom did not teach you anything that Elaine Foster Moss didn't teach her son. And that's all of us sons. We all are the same way in that regard. But we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Hanukkah and all the rest of it. Now, you won't believe this, but I didn't come to the studio to talk about that for the whole hour. I want to talk about this impeachment because I want to clarify and clear up what these scholars are saying, and these scholars are saying a lot of things out there that need to be corrected. And I can't believe some of the things they're saying, because a lot of things they're saying, I don't know where they're getting it from. It's certainly not in the Constitution. And I'm going to call some names out here because I don't want you to think that I'm a little bit shy about calling them out. But some of these Harvard professors, they need to be held in check, because they're making a lot of comments. And I don't think they even think they have to show where it's found in the Constitution, because they feel they're so arrogant. They think that because they work at Harvard University, they don't have to show any credentials. Just the simple fact that they work at this Ivy League institution, that's enough to verify and validate that they are in fact telling us the truth. But they're not telling us the truth. And I'm going to come behind them and tell you where they're getting it wrong, because a lot of stuff they're saying, it makes you wonder why they're saying some of the things they're saying, because the Constitution doesn't allow them to make the points that they're making. And I'm talking, for example, about the comment made by Noah Feldman, Dr. Noah Feldman from Harvard University, and he's worse than his colleague, and I thought he was pretty bad. And that's Dr. Lawrence Tribe. I'm getting to lose a lot of respect for these constitutional scholars. To be honest with you, I'm losing a lot of respect for them, because they're saying some things that are quite outrageous. I don't even think that those that have a cursory understanding of the Constitution will say the things they're saying. And these are the scholars now. These are the ones that supposedly have the Constitution under their wings. They understand it. They interpret it correctly. And what they're saying here is like the gospel coming down from them. This is like the 10 tablets. I mean, the 10 tablets. This is like the 10 commandments. The 2 tablets that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai. And they're telling us this tablet, that is, say, the Constitution, says these things about the impeachment process of the United States. I'll tell you this. A lot of the reason why this country is so torn about impeachment is because of the one thing that the scholars did not tell the American people. And if they had said that, this one thing would have lowered the friction in the country, and that would be to tell them that the impeachment process is a political process and not a legal process. So therefore, they would understand that what the people are doing up there in Washington is that they are in fact playing politics. And if we understood it as a political process, we would then not be so disconcerted by the fact that they're acting politically, because they're politicians. That's what politicians do. What do you expect them to do? And impeachment is a political process, and anyone that understands anything about the Constitution understands that. Because the process of impeachment is explained in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5. That's where it says, the House shall choose its Speaker and shall have, that word shall is important. That's a commanding word, it doesn't say should. The House shall choose its Speaker and shall have the sole power of impeachment. That's in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5. And why is it there? It's there because Article 1 sets up the legislative branch of government, but Section 2 of Article 1 sets up the House of the Congress. So that's why you have in Article 1, Section 2, the House shall have the sole power of impeachment, because in that particular part of Article 1 where the House is set up. But in Article 1, Section 3, the Senate is set up so that you would expect then to have in Article 1, Section 3, you expect to then have the Senate's role brought into the impeachment process. And that's why it's found in Article 1, Section 3, because Article 1, Section 3 sets up the Senate. Because this is not hard when you understand the Constitution. And I really do not think, and I'm not a layman here, they claim that they're scholars in the Constitution. And I have to tell you, I'm beginning to wonder about that. I really am. But Article 1, Section 3 sets up the Senate. Therefore, you're not surprised to find out that in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6, it says that the Senate, not you, Nancy Pelosi, the Senate should have the sole power to try the impeachment. Now, let me explain why it does both. Both found in Article 1. The process starts out in the House of Representatives. Why? And no scholars are saying this, and it is worrisome that they do not go into the details of why the Constitution is structured the way it's structured. But do you remember when I said that the impeachment process is a political process? So then why would the charge of impeachment, the impeachment, start off in the House of Representatives? Why? It's because given the political aspects to the impeachment process, if it is abused starting off in the House comes before the voters every 2 years, and by the fact that it does that, then there's an immediacy in holding them responsible for any excesses in their political use of it. If it's abused, the retribution can be more swift, and that holds them in check. That's part of the check and balance also. Nobody sees it in that realm, but that's exactly the intention of the fact that starts off in the House. Of course, it's the most numerous body also, and it's in that body that I call the people's body, because the state is divided into different districts. And the districts are carved up so that the districts are close to the people as their representatives than they are on a statewide basis, because you got 2 senators from the states, but then that's for the whole state. But inside the districts carved up as they are, 14 districts here in Michigan, you can see here that the districts are closer to the people. And we are paying more attention to that because they're close to the people. I mean, I bet you most person can tell you who their representative is in their district. I don't want to give them any publicity, but the one that is my district congressman, and I'm not all that happy about it, is because I don't see this man. I see this man as an opportunist. I'm talking about Dan Kildee. Everything he says every time he gets on television, I have to go get me a cup of coffee. All that grandstanding that he does. Okay, so we're coming up on a break this quickly. I am real surprised. It must have taken much more time than I thought in terms of talking about the holiday. Okay, we're getting ready for a break with WFOV, and want to thank you for ahead of time for coming back in 4 minutes, and we will see you on the other side of the break. And we're very glad to have you with us. I know you'll come back after 4 minutes is over, and I want to thank you for tuning in. As always, we'll continue what we're doing here, though, at allpointstv.com, the program called What's Going On. And we are going to go through and try to get through the discussion points, because I want to clean some things up about the process of impeachment, because we're going to be going into it the first of next year. I would say around the 7th of January, after the people come back from the break. And they begin to situate themselves in the rooms of the Congress where they're doing us in most of the time. They'll sit there and we will have the trial of the impeachment that's already occurred. And the president has been impeached. And I'll discuss that also during the program. Because Feldman, you're wrong in what you said about that. Okay, so we have the impeachment taking place in the House of Representatives. All that is an official accusation leveled against the president or the vice president or some other office holder that is appointed by the president. Those are the civil officers of the United States. If they're not appointed by the president, I'm talking about the civil officers now, if they're not appointed by the president, they're not civil officers of the United States. And you constitutional scholars, if you understood that, you'd not be making a mistake that you're making. Because you're saying that in order to impeach, it must be based upon treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors, those 4 charges. It must be one of those 4 charges in order to bring about impeachment. And that's not true. That's found in Article 2. Article 1 deals with the impeachment. The House impeaches, and the trial is in the Senate. And there's nothing in there in Article 1 when the impeachment process is laid out. There is nothing in there that talks about treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors, and Alan Dershowitz and all the rest of them that are saying that. It makes me wonder. Constitutional scholars, I don't know. But I do know this. You cannot be a constitutional scholar and say what they're saying. If you notice in Article 2, where you do have the charges of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors, those 4, you have that in Article 2. But if you notice the language in Article 2, in fact, it's found in Article 2, Section 4, the language that you have there says the president, the vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. But notice here that it is talking about the removal based upon the impeachment. Okay, I want to welcome back. John just told me that the 4-minute time is up. Time passed by so fast here. And I want to thank you for coming back, as you always do, WFOV. And Mr. Herring, I want to thank you for your tuning in. Paul Herring is a fan of the program, and I want to thank him also. He does a wonderful job over there at 92.1. And that station, I want you to tune in because they're doing some great things. I find myself unable to I have to tear myself away from the station because I like everything they're doing over there. And I have to find some time to read. So I have to take off my wife's always asked when I have those headphones on. My wife thinks I'm tuning her out, so I have to I can't do it as long as I'd like to, because I like to read. But Paul Herring is doing a great job over there with WFOV 92.1. Tune it in, you'll enjoy their programming. In Article 2, Section 4, it has in there the 4 things that they talk about that they're confused about, saying that it must be those particulars in terms of making a charge of impeachment against the president or the vice president or other civil officers of the United States. And that's not true. You'll notice the language in Article 2, Section 4, that's where they got it from. It's in Article 2, not in Article 1. Article 2 sets up the executive branch of government. And if you understand that the executive branch of government appoints all civil office holders of the United States, if you understand that, then you understand why it's in the second article of the Constitution where they have placed those particulars if you want to remove an office holder. Why is it in Article 2? Because that's where the appointment of the office holders are, or the appointee of the office holders is found. Because the president appoints all the office holders. And who are they? The judges, all of the federal judges. That is really the impact, the long-range impact that Donald Trump is having on this country. And that's why they would like to have had, if they're going to control one of the 2 houses, they much rather have had the Senate that they control, because all the nominees of the president must be confirmed by the Senate. And by them not having that control in the Senate, and they can use now the nuclear option, that is to have a simple majority vote, because there's nothing in the Constitution that says that you have to have a 2/3 vote for the confirmation of office holders. The 2/3 vote is for the ratification of treaties. But the Senate put in, as part of its rules, the 2/3 requirement, but they broke it in terms of them wanting to pass some things, and when the Democrats controlled it, and they didn't have the votes to do it by 2/3, and so they changed it. They did the nuclear option by saying, "We'll just take a majority vote," and they had the majority, so they could do it that way. And then there was something else that people didn't see that they did, because these people don't respect the Constitution. What Obama did was that they declared that in order to give the Iranian mullahs $150 billion, now try to get that through a Congress by 2/3 vote. It never went to the Congress for a 2/3 vote. What they did was they inverted the process. It takes 2/3 vote, they said, in order to defeat it. And people did not see they pulled the wool over the head of the entire country by inverting the process, because the process of, in fact, validation is not 2/3 vote to reject it, it's 2/3 vote to approve it. And did you notice that they had that inverted process in place? Because they don't respect the Constitution. And I'm beginning to think these scholars don't respect it either, because if they respected it, they would know it. And they abuse it by misapplying it and misinterpreting it. That's an abuse of the document. There are no requirements for impeachment other than a majority vote in the House of Representatives. Why? Because impeachment is a political process, it's not a legal process. If it were a legal process, it would do what these members of Congress think can be done. They actually think that if they impeach Donald Trump and then they vote by some miracle, it's not going to happen, but by some miracles, you get a 2/3 vote to convict him on the impeachment charges in the Senate, which is not going to happen. There's no chance of it happening. There's zero chance of it happening. People like to live from Detroit area, and some of the others think that you then can cut the president off in chains and carry him and put him in jail. I mean, these people are serving in government and don't understand the document, yet they put their hand in the Bible and swear to uphold it, and they don't even know what's in it and don't understand it. The impeachment process is not a legal process, and there are no legal ramifications of it after the impeachment is held, and that's why in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7, I'll read it to you. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. I want you to see what happens after the trial is held in the Senate. I'm going to read this to you from in the Constitution. I'm going to read this to you in Article 1, Section 3. Just turn to Article 1, Section 3, and then go down to the last clause in Section 3. The last clause is, it has 7 clauses in it. And so Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7 says this. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office. Congress doesn't have the power to put anybody in jail. They have the power to impeach, but impeachment is political. Do you want politicians having the authority to do what Abraham Lincoln did, or John Adams? He's a politician. You want that kind of power in the hands of political figures like John Adams or this other tyrant, Abraham Lincoln, who was throwing everybody in jail, even putting congressmen in jail, and really sent the soldiers to put the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in jail. They didn't carry it out, but Lincoln had even sicked the military on Roger B. Taney, and they had the good sense of not carrying out that. They knew that you can't. President had no authority to do that. But that's why you don't want this political power in the hands of politicians. And that's why it says this in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. It says, judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than the removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but it does not preclude anyone from holding an office under the states, because those civil office holders are not appointed by the president, and they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the impeachment clause in the Constitution of the United States under Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5, or Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6. I was listening to them talking about. This is Laura Ingraham was talking about we ought to impeach members of Congress. I was waiting to see what Durcher would say about that. And you know what? The mere fact that he was silent on that question said a lot. Because I think you're duty bound with that type of confusion out there. You have to clarify. You have to come and explain in that teachable moment. You have to go and explain that you cannot impeach members of the House and members of the Senate, because they're not civil office holders of the United States. Now, did you hear me say they cannot be removed from office? No, I didn't say that. That's in Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2. See, I don't take no back seat to these scholars because they don't know what I know.
Look, let's face it. The challenge, the scholars basically left the claim that America is a democracy go unchallenged until somebody out there, like the guy from American Voice Radio, the guy named Ben Shadler or something like that. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but Marcel Ben Shadler, I think his name was. He actually is the one that kept on making the point. There's a difference between a democracy and a republic. But most scholars, when you said that, they just nodded approval and went along with it until somebody, well, there's a difference, but it's a democratic form. It's a democratic form, but it's not a democracy.
Right.
See, there's a distinction because it is a legal
big distinction.
It's a big distinction.
The framers, and you can tell that by the fact that the framers had no problem putting republic, and they said all states are guaranteed a Republican form of government. It's guaranteed in Article 4, Section 4. A Republican form of government is guaranteed to each state. There's nothing in the Constitution that guarantees democracy in each state. In fact, the word democracy is not even mentioned in the document, because the framers were abhorrent about democracy, as they should be. Now,
somebody tried to challenge me saying that, well, the republic and democracy are interchangeable.
No, they're not.
I don't think they are.
No, and when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, going back to Earl Bellamy in the 1930s, I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Who was a socialist, by the way?
Who was a socialist. And listen to what it says here. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic, not to the democracy, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, and they don't like to say this part about under God, which is added in the 50s.
Knights of Columbus, I think, got that in there, didn't they?
Right, yeah. Because of the refutation of the godlessness that was advocated by communism. And during the Cold War, we want to show our distinction from that strain of thought. And so therefore they put in there, after they'd been created, one nation, under God. And then the part about indivisible has to do with the so-called Civil War, which is another way of validating the idea of the republic, although the republic does not necessarily have to have in it states held into an alliance through the bayonet, which is what it amounted to after the war came to a close in 1865, because government of the people should have been that the people can decide whether they want to affiliate or not. And that right to affiliate was taken away when the right to succeed was in fact taken. So that's a quantitative change in the way this country operated before the war, and then after the war, after these tax collectors have been put out there to fight for the collection of taxes, which is what this war really was about. The so-called Civil War was not a civil war, it was a tax war. The second fought on the soil of the United States. We've been fighting tax wars ever since we got here. But what I'm trying to get you to see here is that we have a republic. And what is a republic? A republic is a country where the sovereignty of the people is such that their individual sovereignty come together as a collective to surrender some of that sovereignty in their name. Doesn't give it away. It maintains it, but because of the benefit in terms of organizing an entity that is established in their name to carry out their will, the republic, therefore, in whose will the embodiment of the people is found, carries out the will of the people under the rule of law set by the people. We are supposed to be, and hope we get back to it pronto, we're supposed to be a constitutional republic under the rule of law and not under the rule of professors at Harvard University who are making this stuff up as they go along, because they're saying a lot of things that you cannot find anywhere in any amendments in the Constitution or the original 7 articles in the Constitution. Things they're saying, to a large extent, is an outrage. I'm talking about Noah Feldman's comment that he made last week, I think it was. He was talking about, and I couldn't believe people would accept this, because I think they were aware that the constitutional document says the House shall have the sole power of impeachment. And then Feldman, this person at Harvard University, Feldman comes behind the clear statement in the Constitution and says that the president has not been impeached until the impeachment has been delivered to the Senate. They say that the president has not been impeached because the impeachment has not been delivered to the Senate of what the House has done. Now everybody got a television set. And the Senate is right, I feel just like Bonnie in the Annie Griffin show felt when they had Asa that was supposed to be protecting the bank. And Asa over there sleeping. And his gun wasn't working. And Don Knotts, who played Bonnie Fife, told him, was doing a security check, and told him to take out his gun, and the gun fell apart. And so Asa said that he would get around to it, and then Bonnie said, the hardware store is right down the street. Well, the Senate is right down the hallway. And they're trying to act like somebody has to deliver the impeachment to the Senate in order to formalize the impeachment. The formalizing of the impeachment is majority vote in the House of Representatives. How Feldman says that is a mystery. Because Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 says the House shall have the sole power of impeachment. The Senate has no role in that. And then Feldman, if you say that to me, in fact, you better not say that to me. Because what I'm going to do is take this book and smack you with it. You know, it's not a, you know, the Constitution is not a very large book. The whole Constitution, this book right here contains the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Northwest Ordinance. What else is in here? The Seneca Falls Declaration is in here. The Gettysburg Address is in the book. West Virginia State Board of Education versus Barnett case is in this book. John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. The inaugural address of Dwight Eisenhower in 1961. All that's in this book, and look how thin it is. And they don't even, and it contains the Constitution. Every one of the amendments, all 27 amendments, are in this book. And the 7 original articles, some of which have been changed because of the amendments. All in this book here. And so we're not talking about an encyclopedia, and they don't even know what's in this book, as small as it is, in this Constitution, as small as it is. Because the framers were not so verbose, meaning they're just using words to show how much knowledge they had. They weren't trying to impress anybody. They were trying to get a job done.
I think it's probably one of the most eloquently written, documents I've ever read is the Constitution. I really think it's very
everybody understands it around the world except the people in the United States, because everybody's copied from it. And speaking about eloquence, sometimes there's eloquence in the silence. let me correct Thelman in saying that you have to have the delivery of the impeachment to the Senate in order for the charge of impeachment to be verified. In other words, it's not formalized, and so therefore the president has not been impeached. People were repeating this nonsense. Let me read to you something that's very eloquent and what it doesn't say, and then I'll tell you how it ties in to the impeachment process. It's Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. Let me read that to you. And I want to read it because I want to show you what it, I'm going to show you how by the Constitution's silence, there's profanity in the silence of the Constitution. And so let me read Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. And I'll tell you how that ties in. Now, it's not about impeachment, but it makes a statement that if Feldman understood the Constitution, he would not have made that comment. But he doesn't understand it, and that's why I'm going to correct him right now with this nonsense he's talking about. Listen to this right here. This is in Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President of the United States. Now, why did I read that? Why did I refer to that? Because if it's intended in the Constitution, Noah Feldman, then the Constitution would have stated so, because it does in Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2. And the mere fact that is silent in terms of what you're claiming, and the fact that when it was to be referred to another part of the government, it says so, but it does not say so in this case of impeachment. The silence defeats your argument, but you don't understand that because you don't understand the document, and I do. And that's why if we ever meet, I'm going to shut you up.
See, because
you're dangerous.
When I was younger, I liked the idea of a living constitution until it dawned on me, and Scalia put it in the best. It's a legal document. It's not meant to be flexible. It's not supposed to be accommodating. It's supposed to have a process attached to it for amending it, and it's not every generation can open and totally tear it apart and change it around so they can interpret it in the manner they want. It is a legal document.
It's a legal document.
And if you want to run to it all the time to make a claim on it and cling to it at certain times, then you can't overlook that fact. And they do it. It's like very convenient when they want to change it. They can, but if somebody else is thinking they want to change, they want to stand on it, they could say, well, they want to stand on only when it's convenient to them. The other side. It is a legal document. It doesn't get flexible.
If it's other than a legal document, then you don't have the rule of law. Because if the law is a sliding scale, then when it behooves the law to read one way, given a changing situation, then the law doesn't have any validity because it does not have any finality. It's the law. It's what R.C. Hastings said. The law. This is what he said. Now, This is not my comment. This is R.C. Hastings, the representative from Florida. He said the law is what we say it is. No, it's not. It's not even what Nancy Pelosi says it is. If Nancy Pelosi says that she's holding the impeachment up because the president has been impeached. He's the third president to be impeached. Andrew Johnson, 1868. 1998, Bill Clinton. Nixon was not impeached. He was, in fact, forced to resign August the 9th, 1974. So he was not impeached. So therefore, Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and now the impeached 45th President of the United States. And they're saying it's a stain on President Kennedy's record. It's not a stain. When you have the person making an accusation in our country, we're not living in Russia, although sometimes I wonder. When a person is accused, that's not a stain. Particularly when you look at the accuser, because that's also a part of the process. We've had 20 impeachments in this country as of the one that happened last week, because the President of the United States has been impeached. There were 19 prior to that. Last week we had the 20th. And of the 20 impeachments, no president has ever been removed from office. And that will be the same in this case here. The president is not going to be removed from office because the framers in their infinite wisdom understood the politics involved in it, and they guarded against it by making sure there'd be more than a majority vote to bring about the removal of a president, because he's a single office holder that the entire electorate vote to put in office. And that's no small thing. And therefore, a majority vote in the House, but a 2/3 vote, meaning you have to have some person in both parties coming on the same side to vote a president out, and that's why it's never happened in the case of a president. The 8 persons that have been removed were all federal judges. No president has been removed, and no president will ever be removed through the political process, because the framers understood it and put in safeguards against it. And that's to their credit. They're speaking to us right now in 2019. Keep watching it. I'll be talking about the role of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court next week and why that is going on. But you'll hear it first here, and I'm going to correct the scholars out there. Until next week, I want you to follow your dream. If you don't follow your dream, you'll never know what's on the other side of the rainbow. Merry Christmas.